Hello, and welcome to a new show on WCAT called Talk of the Town. My name is Kathy Healey, and I'll be your host. I'm very excited to introduce you to my first guest. He's a local comedian and Wakefield native. Welcome, Paul D'Angelo.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
Congratulations on the new show.
Thank you.
It's a great set. It's nice. This couch is very comfortable.
Good.
I think
Don't
I
fall asleep.
found some change in between the cushions here.
You can keep it. So let's start by talking about our family connection. So how our moms kind of grew up together.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did grow up together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your mom was my godmother.
Yeah. And your mom was
not a fairy godmother, just a regular godmother.
Yeah, and your mom was my brother Johnny's godmother. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So our families have known each other for a long time.
Yeah, kind of like cousins, but we could marry if we wanted. Don't worry, I'm not gonna.
You proposing?
No. I made it this far.
Okay, that's right. So let's talk about your roots here. So what elementary school did you go to?
I went to Lincoln School,
okay,
which is now an old age home, which means I'm going to be coming full circle. I'll be raising my hand going, I think I had an accident. I'll be right back where I started from. So,
right.
I went to Lincoln School, walked in those days.
Yeah.
We'd walk by the train tracks, trains would be going by. How did we survive?
I don't know.
Yeah, Lincoln School, and grew up in the Gulch.
Oh,
as they know,
The
my
Gulch.
grandfather, in a house my grandfather built when he came from Sicily in the 1920s.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm back in that house again. I have come full circle. Yeah, I'm back in that house and fixed it up with my brothers, and it was the Gulch. And he used to have a store down there in the 30s, a variety store. When I say variety, I mean I also am an artist, so I draw, and I blew up a picture of the sign, and it said fine meats, delis. Deli products, linoleum, refrigerators, washing machines, shoes, clothing. I mean everything. And supplied a lot of the Italian American community in Wakefield.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, my parents talk
Joseph
about it.
Longo's and Sons.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah, it's kind of so. There's a lot of history with that house.
A lot of history.
And I'm back there again.
Oh my gosh!
It means a lot to me.
And so then you went to Wakefield High.
Sound High.
How was your experience there?
It was, it was great for a while, and then the high school burnt down in I think it was the middle of my sophomore year, and I remember being outside watching burn out. This is the greatest night of my life, and I didn't realize that we were going to have to go to double sessions after that. So it was really, it was challenging, but it was still a good experience. And
did you go in the morning session or the afternoon? I know my sister went in the afternoon.
I think for 1 year it was the morning, and then it was the afternoons, and in fact, because it must have been the mornings later, because I remember the first week I got my license, school was in session, and I wanted to show off to the freshman and sophomore girls that I had my license. I was so excited, and I made an excuse to go to the locker room to pick something up, which I really didn't have to do. I just wanted to see if people would look out the window to see me driving, and I thought it was a big shot. And I put the car, I don't know what happened, but I thought I was putting the car in reverse, and it was a big snowstorm, and my foot slipped off the brake onto the gas, and the car jolted ahead and went over a snowbank and hit the school going about 30 miles an hour head first.
Yeah.
Second day I had my license. And the girls noticed, because they all came to the window and looked out and said, what the hell happened? Right? And I was so embarrassed. And my friend Chucky was in the car next to me. He was in a catatonic trance, just going, I can't believe you just drove into the school. He just kept repeating that. Yeah.
Wow.
So I made my mark on Wakefield High School, but it was more of a dent.
Oh, that's great. And then after Wakefield High, you went to BC.
Boston College, I was a school of management.
Oh, okay. And then you went to Suffolk Law?
I took 1 year off, and I worked at a high-tech company, and then went to Suffolk Law.
How was working for the high-tech company?
It was very valuable. It was a valuable lesson to me, because I learned, I was believe it or not, I was in the top 3% of my class in the School of Management. I got all these job offers, but I knew I only was going to work a year because I wanted to go to law school, and I learned three very important lessons. First of all, if you don't love your job, if you're looking at the clock all day and you don't have a passion for your job, you'll never be great at what you do. And I wasn't really crazy about doing that. I couldn't wait to get out of there at the end of the day. I learned that I didn't like to work in a structure where people, would boss me around and everything. I was very independent. And I also learned if you're a creative person, you need a creative outlet. And if you have a methodical job, it will drive you crazy unless you have something to balance it out. So those were really important lessons because after I got out of law school, I was working in the DA's office for 11 years. I worked in there 11 years because after I was there a couple of years, I started doing stand-up.
Yeah, how did you get into that? Was it a bachelor party? Or
I went to, my friend had a bachelor party, but not like your typical, it was a roast, like a dinner roast. And I must have been funny. Obviously, I was funny at the time because everybody was waiting for me. And I literally wrote like a 45-minute roast of him, mostly all original stuff and some adapted things. There was a lot of alcohol involved at the first time, and it was great, and the guys loved it. And then people said, "Oh, we want to hire you," and I said, "No, this is just a one-time thing." But at the time, I was going to live comedy in Boston, and it was thriving. And when I went back, I went back more as like almost a critic instead of a spectator, and I was saying, maybe I could do this, but when I started, I couldn't go through that obligatory period where you suck, like everybody does for a long time. I said, I got to be good, like, immediately. So I wrote for a year, and I had done like 100 trials, like jury and trials in front of a judge. So I wasn't worried about the stage presence. I was worried about having like 25 minutes of material before I did 5 minutes. And I only did about 12 open mics. And then my parents got on my back because my mother found out, after the first time I did it, my mother found out, and I'll never forget her encouragement. She said, "I'm glad you got that out of your system." And then they got on my back and said, "Hey, what are you doing? You're a good lawyer. Why are you doing this comedy thing?" So I quit, and I was ready to take a job with a big law firm in Boston, and that's when those lessons came back from that year I took off, because I said, "Oh my God, I'm going to be stuck in an office doing paperwork." They said I won't go in front of a jury for years. Oh my God. I said, and I had to kiss everybody's butt to move up the chain. It was everything I hated about that other job. Right. So I panicked. I called up the two big agents in Boston at the time, Mike Clark, who books Giggles, Barry Katz, who's now was the executive producer of Last Comic Standing. And I lied to them. I read off a sheet going, I was in New York at these clubs, and will you come and see me for an audition? And they did, and bingo, I was working like anywhere from 3 to 7 nights a week while I was doing the DA's office.
And could you, then eventually you quit the lawyer side?
I quit to go to Los Angeles in the beginning of '94. And somehow I became a defense attorney. I quit. I put a deposit on a place in Hollywood. I came back to get my things, and my friend said, "Can you cover for us? We have 2 lawyers in my firm. There's 3 defendants. We need a 3rd guy. Just show up. They're going to dismiss the case because it's the 3rd brother. He wasn't even there that day." And I showed up to 100 cameras. I was on TV, and they're putting the microphones in my face. My friends were on at home watching and saying, "I thought he was going to Los Angeles." So they're all calling me up. I said, "I don't know what happened." So that case that was supposed to be over right away took a year and a half, and in the meantime, I became a defense attorney. And I was very successful. I won every trial I ever went to trial on, but I was miserable. I used to say I used to do good things for bad people. Yeah. And I said, "What am I doing? I could be in Vegas or on a cruise ship right now instead of this." And I eventually quit and went to LA. I was there for 6 years. Oh, wow. And then came back to Wakefield. I said, "Well, I can always go to LA when I need to," but I'm based out of Wakefield now.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And what type of advice would you give, like, aspiring comedians?
Advice, there's nothing to substitute for experience, just getting on stage in every circumstance you could imagine. I help a lot of aspiring comedians because I just love talking comedy. I love the process, creative process, and passing on advice that I've learned and everything. But everyone that I've ever tried to help, they said, "I didn't realize how hard you work at this." So if you're good at something, you have to put the time in. There's no excuse, and get in every circumstance you can imagine. Just get on stage, and even if it goes terribly wrong, as long as you learn something from it, it's not a waste of experience,
So, Paul, what happens when you get a heckler? And like, how do you react when you get a heckler?
A straight vodka. Jesus. No, I'm kidding. It would make an interesting show, though, wouldn't it?
Yes, it certainly would, yeah.
Yeah, what was the question?
So, what's the toughest part about being a comedian? Is it when you have a heckler, or when you lose, like if you're in the middle of a joke and you kind of forget, you lose focus? So what?
Well, I would hope that wouldn't happen, but hecklers do happen. Not so much anymore, because it's not really a club business like it used to be. I used to have my own show at, just for example, in Nick's in Boston, where it used to be 300 or 400 people every single night, 7 nights a week. And that's just a Friday and Saturday night room now. But back in those days, they put a comedy club in every Chinese restaurant, Mexican restaurant, and place down the street. So that was the peak of the comedy boom, and then it went down. But now most of my shows are corporate shows, conventions, private shows, private events, fundraisers, benefits, things like that. So you don't get the heckler, you don't get the drinkers and things really like you used to. But a heckle is kind of like seasoning when you're cooking. It can enhance the experience of the show if it's just a little bit. Yeah. But if you put too much, you ruin it. You know. And what I like to do, one of the things I do, I don't like to really go after the people anymore like I used to. But what I do is try to turn the crowd against them, because if somebody really doesn't get the message, and I ask them, I'll ask politely a few times, can you shut up, you know? Yeah. And then I'll just say, hey, you know what? These people didn't really pay to hear you talking the whole night, right? And I get the crowd. Did you buy a ticket to listen to this idiot all night? And, yeah, that's right. He's an idiot. Shut up, you know? So they'll get the crowd to go, you know, kind of turn against them. And but once again, that just comes from experience. I mean, dealing with every experience imaginable, and maybe the first time you don't know how to handle a heckler, but the next time you'll be more prepared, or every circumstance makes you a little stronger, because as long as you learn from it. Right. Now, I've seen you many times, but I just saw you recently at the Kowloon a couple weeks ago. And, well, there's two clubs, local clubs, that I do play on a regular basis, the Kowloon and Giggles, because people ask where you're going to be, and since a lot of my shows are private, I go, oh, I'm going to be at the Kowloon or Giggles. So one of the funniest jokes you talk about is the bus, how the bus stops at every kid's driveway nowadays. Yeah. That's a good one. The big yellow limousine. Yeah. How they stop it. I wonder why kids are getting chubby. That's why. Yeah. If you get stuck behind a bus on the way to work, forget it. Just call in sick. You're not going to make it. Yeah. Another funny one was when you talk about all the different types of sneakers that we wear. We have running sneakers. I haven't done that joke for a long time. I know, it was a long time ago. Tennis sneakers, running sneakers, all sorts of different. Well, sneakers. Everything has to come in. There has to be some basis for reality, or it's got to be something people can relate to. So it's all about being observant. Like when you're talking about helping out aspiring comedians, I said, just look around. Should I quit my job and write? I go, you can't sit at a desk and write. Yeah. Go out and live life, you know. But look around, make notes. Yeah. Every girlfriend I've ever had is such a pain in the neck. It's like, hey, do you have a piece of paper? I need a pen, I need a piece of paper, and I'm always writing down little notes and things. So it takes a commitment, even when you're not on stage in that mode. You have to be aware of your surroundings, of maybe the potential for something funny. Wow, well, that's great. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm hoping you can. My pleasure. Good luck with your new show. I'm hoping you can slide down the coach and stick with us for our second guest. Yeah. Great. So my next guest is also a local Wakefield native, and he's a Native American. He's actually one of the co-founders of WCAT and Constable here in town, and his name is Dick Baird. Welcome, Dick, to the show. Hi. Good seeing you nice again. To see you again. Come on in and sit down. I did. And you met Paul? How are you, sir?
Good, thank you. Probably wondering why I'm carrying this, but it's awful cold outside.
Oh. Yes, I noticed. That's very interesting.
That is a golden eagle feather headdress, and only American Indians can have those by federal law. Okay. And in fact, I had you break the law a little while ago when I put it on you, but we won't tell anybody that. That was the last headdress that my father made. He had the Indian trading post up at the head of the lake.
Right. Now, you worked there when you were in high school, right?
No. We lived in Montrose. Oh, okay. And then I got married and went into the service, put a year overseas in World War II in Korea, and came back and then went to work for Raytheon. Oh, wow. And put 37 years in Raytheon and ended up with that and guided missiles, all missile industry. Wow. And research and development.
Tomahawk missiles?
Sparrow, Hawk, Patriot.
It just seemed the obvious.
Dragon. Yeah. And I was the only senior engineer there without a degree.
Oh, okay.
And so,
Did you go back and get your degree, though?
No, they wanted me to go back and get my master's 6 months before I retired, and I couldn't see going back for that because I would have no use for it after retiring.
Okay.
So then when I retired, I opened up a little hobby shop, fixing woodworking, doing woodworking and stuff.
Yes.
And I do a little lecture work on different schools. I go to kindergartens and assisted livings and old age people and Boy Scouts and lecture about Indians.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about your Native American background. So when you were younger, growing up with the Native American background, did you have any issues with kids in school or in the community? Was anybody mean to you, or did they bully you?
Well, they keep calling it discrimination. I had no idea what that word meant when growing up. I was born in '29. And so we didn't have those problems, either with races or anything else. So I can't say I was discriminated against because I didn't know what it was. And then nothing brings to mind where I was had a problem with it. The only time discrimination came up at one time was when I was working, and there was a case came up with some hardcore people from Boston that we had to hire because we did military contracts, but it was just a superficial thing. It didn't.
Okay.
So discrimination wasn't a big deal with me.
Now you went to Wakefield High School, graduated with my dad.
Yes, I
Want me
did.
to say the year?
And
1947. Yeah.
And your father, Bill, played football, and I was in the band.
That's right. Now tell us about your band experience. Was it as popular as it is today and award-winning?
Well, the Redmonds Band won all kinds of awards. I've marched Fifth Avenue in the rain and Boardwalk of Atlantic City, and I played the sousaphone. And I was the only grammar school student that played in the high school band.
Wow.
Because they didn't have a tuba player.
Oh my gosh.
So I was playing in the high school band when I was in grammar school.
Oh, that's terrific. And tell us, I know you're a constable here in town.
Yes, I'm a constable and have been for many years, and I'm running for office again this coming year.
Terrific. Now, as a constable, tell us what you do.
Well, a constable really has some of the powers that police officers don't.
So you carry weapons and stuff?
I carry a 9mm Glock when I'm out. I don't have to carry it all the time, but it depends on where I go.
Okay.
Not in Wakefield. I don't really need it in Wakefield.
No.
But if I'm going to Chelsea and Everett and Boston, I do carry because other things happen that.
You carry weapons all over you. I think once you showed me one in your leg.
I carry a boot weapon, and if I go to Boston, I carry a .38 in the shoulder. Okay. And if I'm out there, I carry a 9mm Glock here, and mace and the handcuffs. All the good things to scare people more than anything else. Yeah.
No more bow and arrows, huh?
No. That's just why you people didn't fight the game right.
Oh.
We had what we called a magic shirt. And if anybody had seen me in the parades, they would see this as a bone shield that I wear down here.
Yes.
And those were the magic shirt, and those would stop spears and arrows.
Oh.
But then you people came along with boomsticks. Oh, it's terrible.
You people, that's me and you, Paul.
Yeah. I use that, and everybody I've been chastised many times for using that word, but I get a kick out of it because it does get a reaction.
Now, you are in the 4th of July parade every year, and you were the Grand Marshal, I think, in 2011.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience.
Well, my father was a Grand Marshal 2 years before that.
Oh, okay.
And then Dad passed away, and then I was made Grand Marshal. I think part of that was I've been marching Wakefield for over 43 years. And I think one of the reasons that was there, I used to have a Dan Benjamin, wonderful guy. Couldn't praise Danny enough for what he's done for this town. But anyway, he was the one that was responsible, I think, for putting my name in for Grand Marshal.
Oh, okay. Speaking of that, what about the warrior name? They're thinking about changing the name. Now, would that offend you as a Native American? Does the warrior name offend you?
I get upset with people discriminating against Indians by trying to remove their name from the warriors, trying to take the Indian emblem off of the high school, and it just irritates the devil out of me that people are that small and they don't have anything else to do but do something that, as far as I'm concerned, it's an honor to have somebody mention the Indians and the Indian nation after everything that's been done to them over the years.
Right.
And now they want to take even that recognition away from us.
A warrior is a compliment.
That's
Yeah.
a compliment, yes.
Right.
My father named them the Warriors. My father named Saugus the Sachems.
Oh.
He made all the headdresses for all the cheerleaders and for Saugus and Wakefield.
Wow.
So
it's not offensive to
it's
you?
a sore spot for me when people try to take away some of the things that mean something to us.
Yeah, that's good to know. That's from a Native American.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell us a little bit about your inventions, how you have a couple of patents.
I have 2 patents with my company, Raytheon, and they're in the field of RF energy. And what I did is I working with another man, and we developed a material that they can build anechoic chambers. Now, an anechoic chamber is a chamber where you can use RF energy, and it's contained within that particular area rather than getting out and cause. It's like a microwave.
Oh.
In fact, microwave was invented by Raytheon, one of Raytheon's founders. And the way they invented it up in Andover, they were testing some microwave RF energy stuff, and he happened to walk by the door, and he had a candy bar in his pocket. And he walked by, and the candy bar melted. And that's the way it first came out to get the transducers, and the first microwave came to.
Wow, wow. And you're also a justice of the peace. So,
I
Paul,
am
if you
a
want to get married,
justice.
you know, he marries people.
I have married hundreds of people, and I keep telling them I have hundreds of brides.
Wow.
Yeah.
Weren't you one of the founders of this this particular cable TV station?
Well, a few years ago, when Warner Television had it, the Wakefield was not too happy with the way they were handling community access television. So they got a hold of myself as the engineer, and Jimmy Muse as the technician, and Joe Bertram as the attorney. And they asked the 3 of us to form a company. So we took over some studio down here at the old L.B. Evans shoe factory, and we started, we needed a name for it, so we went to the high school, and we put on kind of a quiz for them and asked everybody to come up with a name for the new TV company. So WCAT was the winner, and this is how you got the name.
Oh my gosh, isn't that something? That's impressive. Now, there's a rumor, switching subjects about with this, is in Lake Quannapowitt, there's a path that the Indians made that you can cross.
There's a weirs. No, it wasn't a cross.
Oh, okay.
It's a weirs, and the weirs goes out from Cemetery Point. You know, a Cemetery Point is just before the yacht club. And there's a weirs that went out probably 50, 100 feet or so. And that weirs was so the Indians could get out and walk out and do fishing in the lake.
Okay.
And that weirs is still there.
Is it true that the translation of Quannapowitt means to run with spandex? I see a lot of people
I've never
going
heard
around.
that before.
No, maybe
I've
not.
never
That
heard
might
that
not be
before.
true.
That
was just my theory.
You really think that? I don't think they did spandex in those
No,
shoes.
maybe not. Yeah, that probably throws a hole in my theory.
Yeah. So, but the weirs are still there. I used to have a boat out in the lake, and we'd always kind of patrol right around where the weirs were, and our still is. And in the summertime, the water would go down, and so people wouldn't see it. But these out-of-towners would get their speedboats, and they'd be zipping around, and we'd just sit there in my boat and watch, and all of a sudden they'd hit that, boom, and they'd hit one of the shear pins. We'd tow them in again. We had more fun standing out there watching these out-of-towners hit the weirs.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's great.
They're still there. Yeah.
And you also, like you say, you repair antiques as a hobby.
My hobby, and I have a shop where I live, and if it's broken, bring it down, we'll fix it. Wow. I just got through repairing a 5-foot-tall Nubian soldier from Ethiopia, and it's all gesso. Gesso is the plaster of Paris that is put over wood to form the different particular shapes and so forth. Mm-hmm. And this 5-foot statue had lost probably 50% of its gesso. So I repaired the whole thing, put it together. Wow. I repair wood, anything with woodworking, and the things that I've worked with, Admiral Peary's giant penguins that got broken, And I fixed eyeballs for people that dropped them out.
You make me feel like an underachiever.
I know.
I thought I thought I accomplished something.
So, well, when I was working for Raytheon, I started 2 laboratories, one plastics and chemistry laboratory. I'm a registered professional chemical and plastics engineer and mechanical engineer in the state.
Can you do plastic surgery when I get older if I
Well, I'll tell you, in
need some
plastic
plastic
surgery,
surgery?
they use a modified cytochronic monomer, which is called crazy
Great,
glue
you're
now.
hired.
Yeah, they call it crazy glue. And what they do is when they cut an artery or something like that, they shave it off, clean it up, and glue it together. The plastic surgeons use this all the time, which eliminates the scarring from that.
Good to know for the future.
But I worked, Raytheon used to let me go. I worked in Mass General. I worked in the area of aneurysms and strokes and brain surgery. I've worked with Dr. Schimmel on people with optic nerve damage and made circuitry so they could see again. So that was what I did when I worked for a living.
It sounds like you're still working hard.
Oh, yeah.
Harder than Paul and I, anyway.
Well,
Thanks.
You know, one of the things is,
Hey, I got 45-minute work shifts. You know.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
no, I have a curious mind. Everything I have to look. And another point that I have, I don't do anything unless I have fun doing it. I enjoy doing it. So.
Oh, that's terrific. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you both for being on my first show. If you want to find out where Paul D'Angelo is performing, you want to go on pdangelo.com, and you can find out where he's performing. And thank you very much, Mr. Baird, for coming on our show. I
You're very
appreciate your
welcome.
time. And I also want to thank the viewers for watching. If you have any shows that you want us to bring on here, please look at the email and phone number on the bottom of your screen. And I want to thank the Wakefield High School TV students that helped me out with this production, starting with Anthony DeStasio, Dale Denham, Cam Manning, Josh L., Richie Tobin, Emily Lane, Heather Owen, Jake Leotine, Sean Judry, Yash Shah, Sam Simpson, Tristan Coughlin, and the WCAT studio guys that helped me out. I really appreciate all of your help. Thank you very much for watching.